What's up everyone, welcome back, Happy New Year. We're gonna take a quick look back at 2023 and the baits that worked for me. Some were surprises and some were not. So thanks for watching everybody, really appreciate all the new subscribers. Like I always say, if you like this video, please like it. If you wanna subscribe, please do, but I'm gonna keep doing these videos. And now we're gonna talk about 2023. Now that it's in the rear view, I'm gonna look back at the year that was. And I was blessed. I got to fish all over the place. I caught fish here in Texas, caught bass in Idaho and Washington, went to Florida and fished a couple times, South Carolina, New York, Michigan, Georgia, Louisiana. Those are just a few of the states off the top of my head that I remember fishing this year. And I was just kind of looking back at all my fish catches, looking through my camera roll on my iPhone, looking at different posts that I made, thinking of the handful of tournaments that I did enter. And, looking at all those, just in my mind, I was able to kind of put together a list of the 10 baits that worked for me that were by far the best for me. I'd like to hear what your top baits were this year. There's a lot of new stuff coming out, but as I was putting this together, I realized a lot of the old favorites are still good. Stuff that I am talking about or about to talk about, I could have just copied and pasted from last year, the year before, the year before. They are just tried and true favorites that always catch fish. They're things that I rely on. So I'm gonna jump right into it. A lot of times people are done watching the video by now. I've looked at those analytics, but I'm gonna show you the baits right now. Okay, one is no secret, a jerkbait, Megabass Vision 110. Caught a lot of fish on jerkbaits this year, from the +1 Junior, the X80 Trick Darter, the Berkley Stunna, the I'm a Flit, all kinds of jerkbaits. But out of all of them, the Vision 110 was by far the best, just probably because I fished it the most, honestly. But it is a great bait, catches fish, whether you're casting it out there without looking at it or with your live scope. This thing gets bit. This is a really good color too. I'm not really sure what it's called, but I like it a lot. The other one that was a favorite of mine, which I pretty much always is a Roboworm. This is a 6-inch Aaron's Magic, great bait. Cashed a couple checks on this late in the year, but it also saved my days a lot of times. When I was fishing Texas in the middle of summer when it's well over 100 degrees and nothing worked, you can pretty much always get a bite or two on a Roboworm. So I fished it a lot on a drop shot, no secret, but it's kind of a crutch, but it will always put fish in the boat no matter where you live. The other one is probably the top bait of all of them, and not just because I have my Z-Man hat on today, but the chatterbait. I love a chatterbait. Early in the year, I was catching a lot of fish on fire craw, switched into the green pumpkins and black and blue, and then went into the white, shad imitators late in the year. And I caught fish all over the place with the Jackhammer, the Mini-Max, and also the Strike King Thunder Cricket Tungsten. I've caught fish with all of them. They're great baits. Vibrating jig, can't go wrong no matter where you're fishing. It's an awesome bait. The other one I kind of went back to this year is the spinnerbait. Obviously spinnerbait's been around forever, but it's kind of been forgotten a little bit because everyone's throwing the chatterbait. They're winding a swim bait around, they're throwing a swim jig. There's so many other baits that kind of fit that same category. But I probably caught more fish on a spinnerbait this year than I have in the last 5 years combined. Both with this Shimano Swagey Light. I did a video on this about a month ago, just kind of covering the new Shimano baits, but this was a really good one. But I also caught fish on the Z-Man Sling Blades, caught some on the Power Bait, spinnerbait. A lot of different spinnerbaits worked for me. Again, it's kind of a resurgence of the spinnerbait, at least for me, in 2023. Next up, Strike King 6XD. This is another tried and true bait that's been working for me for years and years. Love deep cranking. I got on 2 really good deep cranking bites late in the year in November. Caught tons and tons of fish on this bait, this color, and also the Sexy Herring color. I caught 30, 40 fish a day on this thing, those 2 trips. So caught a lot of fish on this particular bait, the Strike King 6XD. It's a must. Again, I'm sure it's gonna be a top player again this year. Same with the jig. Caught a lot of fish on a jig, same as every year. It's the same old thing, but it works. Whether you're skipping under docks, casting, pitching to laydowns. I did that with all of them. And one jig that stood out was this one, the Strike King Structure Jig. Now it's made for fishing like it sounds, structure, dragging over rocks, all those sort of things, but the head design makes it great for skipping. For docks, just because that head design, trust me, it skips very good. I'd say as good or better than any jig that is designed for skipping. I also use a lot of different trailers. This is just your standard Zoom chunk, super chunk. But the Strike King structure jig was definitely one of my top baits. As were these two, a tail spinner and a blade bait. This is the Jackall Therakoop, and then we got the Depths Circuit Vibe. Both of them are great. I use a lot of different tail spinners and blade baits from different brands. I was using a custom tail spinner, caught a 7-pound smallmouth on Erie this year. But, you know, just looking back, I caught a 6-pound, 15-ounce smallmouth on a blade bait as well. So it was a great year for the metal for me. And again, it's what I use every year, but if you haven't tried blade baits or tail spinners when the water's cold, either early in the year or late in the year for smallmouth, you're missing out. You gotta have these two baits, either these or something similar, because they work incredibly well. Next one is a new one. I've talked about this in several videos, but it's the Jackall Drift Fry Mellow. Caught a lot of fish doing the mid-strolling technique. Works really good. I mean, if you haven't tried that technique, you need to look into it. Mid-strolling is definitely becoming the new drop shot. It's catching a lot of fish, and this is a great bait for that technique. It has a strange bill on it, but it helps the bait roll, gives you more action in the water as you're kind of targeting those suspended fish with mid-strolling. Finally, got the simple Keitech 2.8. Caught tons of fish on this on just a regular ball head. This is just this shad. The color's called shad. I mean, it's the simplest color there is. Also caught them on an A-rig with it. You cannot go fishing without Keitechs or some similar type of swim bait. They work, especially when the fish are eating shad, which is all the time. So they're great baits, as are the rest of them. You know, that was kind of my rundown of the top 10 from my mind of what worked for me, different fisheries across the country, different seasons, fishing as much as I do. These are great performers for me. Now, what was working for you? I'd like to know if you take a look, if you keep logs, or how you keep track of, you know, what makes a good year, what makes a bad year, how you decide what your best baits were. Do you try anything new? You know, let me know in the comments. Appreciate that. I love reading all that stuff, so please do. Thanks for watching.